morning, students. Welcome to your English literature class. Today we are going to do a reading chapter, that is A Stranger Walks into Town from Edward English Trail. So students, by the end of this video, you will be able to express story in your own words, meanings of difficult words and phrases, and answer the related questions. Now children, A Stranger Walks into Town story is written by Victor Marie Hugo. So, he was a French poet, novelist, and dramatist of the Romantic movement. Hugo is considered to be one of the greatest and best-known French writers. Outside of France, his most famous works are the novels Les Miserables, 1862, and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1831. Before we begin with today's topic, let us discuss time to start. Students, open your book at page number 41, that is lesson number 5, A Stranger Walks into Town. So, here are few acts listed below. Tick the ones that you feel deserve imprisonment. Put a cross against the ones that you think do not deserve imprisonment. So, the first is stealing a car. Does stealing a car deserve imprisonment? Students, yes, it deserves imprisonment. Next is murder. Does it deserve imprisonment? Yes, it absolutely deserves, as it is a heinous crime. The next is slapping someone. Slapping does not deserve imprisonment. Next is killing an endangered animal. Does it deserve imprisonment? Yes, of course. Next is stealing someone's tiffin box. Does it deserve? No. It deserves punishment but does not deserve imprisonment. Next is kidnapping. Yes, it deserves imprisonment. Next is stealing food from a shop. It does not deserve imprisonment. Next, grazing against someone's car. So, it also does not deserve imprisonment. Now, students, the chapter that we are going to read is an excerpt from book 2nd, The Fall, chapter 1 from Les Miserables, translated by Isabel F. Hapgood, abridged. So let's begin with our today's topic. The story A Stranger Walks into Town is a story about a Frenchman, Jean Valjean, and his tribulations and reformation. The story shows how he had to struggle to get a normal life after being imprisoned for stealing bread for his sister's children during a time of economic struggle. Now students, I will tell you the brief summary of this story. In early October 1815, a man was travelling on foot and entered the town of Digne, and the inhabitants stared out of their windows at him because of his wretched appearance. He was carrying only a soldier's knapsack, was wearing a long beard, and was dusty all over. No one knew from where he had come. He looked like he had been walking all day and seemed exhausted. He walked past the town hall where he saluted the gendarme stationed outside. Then the man walked to an inn owned by the wealthy Jacquin Lebarre. The man there asked for food and lodging and said he had money to pay for it. So, as he was warming himself by the fire, Jacquin Lebarre scribbled a note and sent a servant child off to the town hall with it. Then the child returned with the reply, and Jacquin stood up and told the man that he could not serve him. The man protested, and after a back and forth, Jacquin said that the man was Jean Valjean, and that he had suspected something upon his arrival. "Go away," he said. Jean Valjean, head down, walked down the street with all the passers-by behind him, looking on with fascination and disgust. Then after that, Jean Valjean knocked at the prison door, but was told to leave unless he got himself arrested. So, at last, at one little street, he peered through the bright lit pane of a single-story house, and there he saw a merry-looking man dancing a child on his knees, while a young woman next to him was nursing another child. Jean Valjean paused there in the hope that he might get some pity there. So children, this was the brief summary of the story. Now students, let's revise the meanings of difficult words. You all have to mark the breakups and note down the meanings on your books. So here is the first word. First, tribulations, great trouble or suffering. Second, reformation, the act of improving or changing somebody or something. Third, reception, a public welcome. Fourth, inhabitants, persons who live in a certain place. Fifth, threshold, an entrance to a building. Sixth, stared, gazed. Seventh, encounter, an unexpected meeting with someone. Eighth, wayfarer, a person who travels on foot. Ninth, wretched, an unfortunate person. 10th, stature, a person's natural height. 11th, thick-set, having a broad and strong body. 12th, robust, strong and healthy. 13th, prime of life, best years of life. 14th, drooping, hanging down or low. 15th, visor, a movable part of a cap that can be pulled down. 16th, concealed, hid. 17th, tanned, become brown after exposure to sun. 18th, perspiration, sweat. 19th, dripping, to fall in small drops. 20th, sordid, dirty. 21st, dilapidated, broken down and falling into pieces. 22nd, bristling, to be full of something. 23rd, evidently, clearly. 24th, whence, from where. 25th, witnessed, saw. 26th, fatigued, tired. 27th, boulevard, a wide street in a town or city. 28th, Gassendi, name of street in Digne. 29th, promenade, a paved public walk. 30th, town hall, a large building that contains the local government offices. 31st, gendarme, a paramilitary police officer in France. Students, we will do phrases now. The first one is of more wretched appearance, ज़्यादा बदहाल रूप का. Second, in the prime of his life, अपने जीवन के सर्वोत्तम अंश में. Third, at the end of the promenade, टहलने के मार्ग के अंत में. Fourth, pulled off his cap, अपनी टोपी उतारी. Now students, let's begin the reading. Early in the month of October 1815, about an hour before sunset, a man who was traveling on foot entered the little town of D. Children, the little town of D here is the town of Digne. The few inhabitants who were at their windows or on their thresholds at the moment stared at this traveller with a sort of uneasiness. It was difficult to encounter a wayfarer of more wretched appearance. So, what time was it? It was the month of October in the year 1815, and it was an hour before the sunset. That means it was an evening time. Now, children, when and where was the man traveling? A man was traveling on foot. He entered the town of Digne. Now, students, who stared at the traveler with a sort of uneasiness? The citizens of this town Digne, who were standing at the windows or thresholds of their houses, stared at him with some uneasiness or discomfort because of his wretched appearance. He was a man of medium stature, thick-set and robust, in the prime of life. He might have been 46 or 48 years old. A cap with a drooping leather visor partly concealed his face, burned and tanned by sun and wind and dripping with perspiration. Now, students, in these lines we are told about the physical appearance of the man. He was a person of medium height. He had a broad and strong body, and he was in the prime of his life, that is, the best years of his life. He was perhaps 46 or 48 years old. That means he was under 50. He was wearing a cap with a drooping leather visor which was hiding his face. Now, because he was traveling, his skin was tanned by the sun and he was also sweating. Next, the sweat, the heat, the journey on foot, the dust added I know not what sordid quality to this dilapidated whole. His hair was closely cut, yet bristling, for it had begun to grow a little, and did not seem to have been cut for some time. So, from these lines, it is very clear that the traveller was walking on foot, and because of the journey and heat, he was extremely tired, and he was in a bad condition. Now, children, what added to the dilapidated condition of the stranger? The answer is the sweat, the heat, the journey on foot, and the dust added to the dilapidated condition of the stranger. Children, what kind of hair did the stranger have? His hair was closely cut. If you looked at him, you would come to know that he did not have the haircut for a long time, and his closely cut hair has begun to grow a little. No one knew him. He was evidently only a chance passer-by. Whence came he? From the south? From the seashore? Perhaps, for the made his entrance into D. D here is Digne, by the same street. 7 months previously had witnessed the passage of the Emperor Napoleon on his way from Caen to Paris. Now, children, who was this man? No one knew this. He seemed to be a passer-by. He didn't seem to be a person who was the resident of that area. So, the question arises, from where did he come? Did he come from the south? From the seashore? And why was it assumed that the stranger had come from the south or from the seashore? It was assumed that the stranger had come from the south or from the seashore, as he made his entrance into Digne by the same street which 7 months ago was visited by the Emperor Napoleon on his way from Caen to Paris. Now next, this man must have been walking all day. He seemed very much fatigued. Some women of the ancient market town, which is situated below the city, had seen him pause beneath the trees of the boulevard Gassendi and drink at the fountain which stands at the end of the promenade. He must have been very thirsty, for the children who followed him saw him stop again for a drink. 200 paces further on, at the fountain in the marketplace. Now, children, this man was extremely tired. Now, why did the man seem very much tired? The man seemed very much tired, for he must have been walking all day. And, children, what did some of the women of the ancient market town see the stranger doing? Some of the women of the ancient market town saw the stranger pause beneath the trees of the boulevard Gassendi and drink at the fountain. Now, children, how can you conclude that the stranger must have been very thirsty? The stranger must have been very thirsty, as the children of the town followed him, saw him stop again for a drink 200 paces further on at the fountain in the marketplace. So, students, this brings us to the end of today's session. Now, students, your homework is to reread the text and revise the word meanings. Thank you.